it's not just about all the exposure we get out of it. Everybody needs exposure in a relationship where the main focus is to try to get exposure. But then there comes this other piece, which we go for long-term relationships. We look for real people. Like we won't sponsor people that are completely fake. It just, and there might be people that are listening now that have tried to get sponsorship and may see their program, not given the love, even if they have this incredible following. And there might be some reason to it. Maybe we just don't feel that you jive with the brand. That's not an insult to your program or what you're doing. Like we support so much of that grassroots enthusiast movement. But the only way you can do that is by really standing behind people for a long time.
Well, and I see the same thing that you're speaking about in BMX because I've been a pro BMX rider a long time.
Right.
And you could be the most popular, sickest rider ever doing all the flips and the newest tricks possible, but the brand that I rode for wouldn't fuck with you because you weren't, you just didn't work. You didn't fit in. You know what I mean? And that's, and not to say that you didn't fit in with our program, with our vibe and the representation of the sport that we were trying to portray.
Yeah.
And I can see the same thing with a brand like Konig, you know what I mean? Like, if you fit in with us and we get along, it works. It's not just about numbers. It's not just about podiums. It's more than that.
Oh, for sure. And what's interesting with our drivers, when we set out to develop a relationship on a driving program where the focus is really the driving, we pick people that will do the right thing by us day in, day out. Not if they get a different offer or something changes, will they, are they chasing after product? And that sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes we get the people that are stuck with that and we think that they're a good dude and it just turns out they're not. But most of the time we've been very fortunate to get guys, like Kevin Lawrence, like the Travis Readers, which was a good hookup from you last year.
Shout out Travis.
And these guys are solid heart people. And that's what really makes a difference when we talk about a brand ambassador and having them out there representing us, right? And that's really hard to explain, but we really try to feel that out. And I think you have been a really incredible ambassador for us, not just because of the exposure you bring, but just because I think that you really get what we're about.
Yeah, and I think that a conversation like this, these kinds of conversations don't happen enough because there's so many drivers and athletes that are lost,
right?
Because they think they know what you need as a brand,
right?
They're sold on it. They're like, this is what they need. They need me. I'm their savior.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's not that they're not smart or they don't know what's going on, but there's more to it than that. And unless you spend, I spent some time in marketing and that kind of gave me an upper hand when coming into motorsports, but you've got to set your ego aside and educate yourself, ask questions,
sure.
And, that's to be able, now that there's so much content and media out there and people doing things like this, explaining, yourself, you are the guy that is going to sponsor somebody if the situation is okay, or,
right.
It works for you.
Right.
So for you to explain this, I think it's very important, the do's and don'ts, the positives and negatives.
If you haven't listened to what preceded this, the couple of podcasts preceded, try to take a listen because there is we went into this on one of the other podcasts with Jonathan Woolley, but I think it's really important to note the worst thing you probably could ever do even if you have a decent following is approach a brand and in the conversation, whether it's after they've told you they're not really interested or before they've told you that, you start in with how great you are and how you've seen other people that have less following or less to bring to the table than you do, and they're getting stuff already, so you're entitled. I think the worst thing in the world is that word entitled. You are owed nothing by anybody. And you got to earn it. And that's something you have, well, I'm not even saying it because we're on this podcast. Like, you have done that tenfold. And that's what helps. The brand, you earn a brand's trust. And listen, there's always going to be companies out there that just don't do the right thing for no reason. But
yeah, and there's
that's
always
the
going to
nature
be
of
the
business.
driver that does the wrong thing for no
1,000%.
reason. I'm eating pretzel sticks, but
I don't care.
bear with me.
Right. Right.
Okay, well, I think, for me, your ego, you have to be confident in yourself for sure, but
Yeah.
once you feel like your ego is so big that you are entitled to something, there's an issue. But there's also a point in which you have to know your self-worth.
For sure.
You can't undercut yourself because we see this. We see in motorsports especially. There are people that come in with money, which nothing bad, nothing against people that have money that work hard their whole lives and are able to fund programs on their own. But they will take a sponsorship deal and pay for the product at 10% off, and put a big sticker on their car. So then when somebody that works really hard, grinds really hard, and is trying to set themselves up to do these things, to have their own program, go up to a company and they say, hey, guys, here's what I got going on. Here's what I'd like to offer to you. Here's what I would like in return. And they said, well, so-and-so did this for 10% off.
Right.
Or 20% off. And then the guys that are really working hard are cut out because they need more to succeed, and they can't get it.
Yeah. But I think, I think, and I say this, I've been at Konig for almost 13 years. I say this with 13 years of having dealt with sponsorships. It has to be a two-way street. It has to be. And I'm not just talking about the things that you get from a sponsorship and the things you receive. Those are deliverables, and they're executables on every single contract. What I'm talking about is it's a crime for a brand to approach somebody and try to undercut them by not looking at their value just because they think they can get away with it.
And that happens every day.
I understand. So there will always be situations. I mean, it happened even today. I had somebody approach me that has a pretty decent program. Maybe not the most following in the world, but they have a decent program. And they gave us a really great proposal, which I really appreciate because they're doing their homework. They care about what they're sending in. It's not just an email that says, I have 14,000 or 18,000 followers and, can I get some product? Like, that's not really a proposal to me. And we get hundreds of proposals every week. And then on top of the proposals we get, we have thousands of Instagram message. I mean, we have more Instagram messages about getting sponsored than we do followers. I mean, it's crazy. But these people, they come there and they're not even set up. So this guy came in and he had a great proposal. The problem is at this stage of the game, you're coming in mid-year. I don't even if I believed in the program, I don't have a lot of big full sponsorships to give. Of course, they'll be there. So I had to tell him, look, I believe that you're worth more, but right now, I can do a partial. If you want it, it's great. If not, hit me next year. And that choice will be his. I don't know what it is. It's not lowballing him. It's just, it is what it is. But
and being honest on your part, and at least, and think about it like this. Like, I'd like to think that when I reach out to a brand, I have my shit together when I reach out.
Sure.
When I'm giving them that initial, hey, what's up? It's solid. Half the time, I don't even get an email back. So for a brand and somebody as busy as you to kind of just give them the respect of a response. And just to be honest, like, hey, dude, I can't do it. I don't have the product, or, hey, we've already tapped our budget for the year. We're mid-year. Those types of things, even a response. I think that as a driver or an influencer, it means more to us to get something back.
You know what? Listen, while we're in that thought process of how it happened, let me take him back and give him my side.
Yeah.
Because I think this might be an interest. I don't know if anybody cares, but if you do and you're looking for, well, what's the deal on a brand side? So we get, like I said before, we get hundreds of proposals. I mean, hundreds. And majority of them won't ever pan out. And the reason isn't because the proposal may not be good or the offering may not be good. It's because it's really very difficult for us to, with limited amount of products and sponsorships we can give away, for us to figure out with what you give us if the person's real or not, or if they're going to do what they said they're going to do.
Well, and how hard is that you can't, like...
Our job depends on it. People should understand that.
It's all a gamble every time.
Absolutely.
Continue, I'm sorry.
No, it's just, you're exactly right. It's a gamble, but it's a gamble that we have to make the best educated decisions for. So a lot of times, you know how that conversation of it's who you know? Well, in a sense, it can be, but not in the ways you would think. It's not, no one had to call you. I'll give you, this is a perfect example. Perfect example. No one had to call me and say, hey, Caleb's going to send you an email. Caleb did his own homework, got to me, found me, and stuff like that. But then I had to check up on him. So why did it take so long for Caleb to get a response back? Because I had to use anybody he listed to try and find out if he was as real as he said he was going to do. I had to figure out if we were going to give him stuff and we were going to get something back in return. To at least to start it off with.
Yes.
And I called contacts that I had over at Hoonigan, because that was one of the things that you were talking about at the time.
Yep.
And I spoke to them for a little bit, and this is the answer they gave me back. They said, Caleb is one of the realest dudes ever, and if he really is in your corner, he'll have your back. And I said, well, I don't know. That's a, they have no reason to lie to me. So
yeah.
I said, we'll take a shot. This was real enough. So when Caleb called me, I said, we'll do the half thing. From there on, there was little things that changed the way I looked at our relationship. It wasn't the amount of posts. It wasn't what you put up. It wasn't what you were doing. It was the random things where I watched you go through your content and do what we call real life, which people watch through YouTube.
Yeah.
And I watched how much you actually cared about what you were doing and the value you were bringing to people. Only a few sponsorships that I can remember where I really felt like, wow, we got hosed.
Did they sell the car right after you gave them the wheels?
No, well, we've had some things. There's been so many stories. I mean, I can go down that road for a long time, but I don't know. I just think it's about, do what you say you're going to do. Provide value to people all the way around. Be loyal. Don't be the guy that jumps from this to that, with no consistency and doesn't care what they're trying to do. I think if you put those things together into whatever you're trying to do, your programs, your drifting, your race, your racing, I think you'll see a marginal return. It takes time. People have to have patience.
You want to know what I've noticed, dude? Is that so in BMX, if you jumped around from sponsor to sponsor,
yeah.
If you did like 2 sponsors changes within 2 years, you were basically cast out of Pro BMX.
That's crazy.
Because no one would believe that you're loyal.
Yeah.
And loyalty in BMX is everything. Like most dudes get one frame sponsor, they're on there for 20 years, and then they retire.
Well, it's crazy is that's definitely not the case in automotive.
Well, no, it's not. So when I spoke with you first, and you're like, hey, dude, just so you know, we're all about trying to establish long-term relationships. And I think at the time I was like, yeah, dude, of course. And you were probably like, oh, yeah, well, he's fucking going to say whatever to get sponsored. But that's what I was used to. That's what I was always about. And then I started seeing that every year, dude sponsors would change in motorsports. And I was like, why? Like, if you had these products that were working good, Now, I get that companies spend all their marketing budget and then they can't redo their budget next year and you've got to get money somehow. But I feel like if you do your job right, that budget will always be there.
Over the past 2 years that you've watched us team up with different drivers and the people we partner with, how many of them have changed or are we not with now?
I haven't seen you drop anybody.
No, we don't.
I've seen people drop themselves as far as like just not driving.
Yeah, but that's totally different. You'll never avoid that, and we wish them well,
Exactly, and that's not you. That's not on you, and you probably still support them. But I think even with you giving me the freedom to take my advice and me being like, hey, dude, I got this guy. His name's Travis Reeder. I've known him for 10 years. He's a great driver. And you're like, well, okay.
That was a good story.